Free advice, would you like some free advice? Free advice forever.
All right, we're rolling again. But we don't have to start the podcast immediately.
Oh, we could let some air in.
Yeah.
Let it breathe.
I don't want the red light to be like a big change.
You're on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, it's hard. I don't have any other thing in my life where it's like, okay, start performing now. Mm-hmm. Except for like waking up in the morning, which actually gives me a lot of anxiety.
Does it? Waking
up? Well, it's like before bed when I think about, okay, what do I have to do tomorrow? I start to get butterflies sometimes of just like, okay, do I have my day like adequately planned? Do I know exactly what I'm going to wake up in the morning and do first thing? And so I'll check my calendar and I'll be like, oh yeah, okay, I know that Mondays always look like XYZ. And then I remember that I like Mondays actually. You know, I kind of, but like checking my calendar to actually know what's coming helps. And then on the day I like wake up and I still get anxious about rushing through my morning and like taking time to enjoy it. It's hard. It's hard not to feel like everything you have to do is like urgent. And since I don't go to the office at a prescribed time every day, it's like it's up to me to make meaning in that whatever time I do have.
Jordan Peterson, the therapist, says that he first thing he does with clients that are depressed is check, do they wake up at an hour that a normal person does? And are they on a schedule? And if they're not, implement that first. And then that routine gives them a foundation for everything else to gain some more order.
Yeah, I have some thoughts about that.
I feel like I can't do it right now because there's times that I got to get up early and there's times that I got to stay up late.
Right.
So it's... I'd have to change other things in my life to be able to fit into that.
Everyone thinks... I mean, not everyone thinks. That's a big sentence. That's a big start to that sentence. But like...
That's fine.
A lot of people have the guidance that when you're trying to solve some kind of issue, like depression, some big emotional issue, it's like, okay, let's start by implementing a bunch of structure, and then within that structure, people will gain the motivation and start. They'll just start doing the thing regularly, and then they'll realize, oh, I'm already doing the thing. I guess I'm not depressed anymore. Or that's a vast, like a dramatic oversimplification. But like the thing that my personal philosophy of what actually works, based on like some of what I've seen from my clients, some of what I've done for myself, has been you have to like care about yourself and actually have motivation to get up in the morning, to start getting up in the morning. So I like an inside-out approach versus an outside-in approach. I use a little bit of both, and it kind of varies, but like I think that I would underscore the importance of, you're depressed? Okay, let's sit down and let's talk about what are the internally what's going on, and you know, the base issues that comprise that, versus like, okay, you're depressed, like let's get militant about it. Let's wake up at 8 a.m. every morning. Let's make sure you get to the gym. Because it's just, you end up building a foundation on top of quicksand.
I think the outside-in approach is more appealing to me. I've never had a breakthrough where I change my feeling about myself because of some reflection, and then I start doing things differently. I can't
That's how all
remember
of mine
it at
have
least. I've found that just being in different circumstances, being in a different situation, I start to adapt to that, and then before I know it, I'm like, oh, the things that I was worried about, or the things that I thought were wrong with me, I'm not feeling that anymore. I have these other things that I'm paying attention to, and so getting a new job, moving to a new place, getting new friends, signing up for some responsibility has tended to improve my life more than like hugging a pillow at night and saying I love myself, like I forgive myself. I think I deserve good things, that, or like positive visualization. Maybe I'm oversimplifying that.
Well, that to me is still a little outside in. It's a different, I guess I kind of feel like just starting to change like your self-talk, for example, with that's sort of still outside in to me.
Okay. What's inside out? Can you explain it?
You kind of, you ask someone to reflect on potentially the causes of some of these things, and then they go back and they're starting to think about, oh, well, my parents always said this or that. And that connects to that experience, and that connects to that. And it, like, builds this, like, internal map. And then, I mean, it's both. Like, outside in does totally work. Like, I moved across the country, and that was a huge part of me not overcoming, because that makes it sound like it's done. But, you know, managing my depression and changing the nature of it and allowing me to make a bunch of other life changes. But I had to decide that I was worth moving across the country and putting all my stuff in a car, and, you know. But yeah, I think that the outside in is sort of faking it till you make it, doing it until it's a thing, versus uncovering the blocks to it being a thing and then building up the inside me. But both are important. But it's just different. It's, you know, therapist strategies and coach strategies are so stylistic and subjective.
Is it like telling yourself a different story? Rewriting your personal narrative of, like, how you explain your past to yourself or who you are to yourself?
Yes, and it's like the process of uncovering that change live.
Okay.
Watching that happen with clients is probably my favorite thing. When they're like, oh, I just realized now that we're talking about this, like, my dad used to say this, or my mom used to say this, or I always went to school and did this, and I never noticed the connection between this and that before. It's like unlocking the little explanations that underlie all these daily tasks and processes and, you know, thoughts and beliefs. Yeah, it is about changing the narrative. But yeah, it's kind of like writing it as you go versus, like, writing it and then committing that to memory.
Mm-hmm. I'd like to write what happened, write my story, you know, in a few paragraph form, and then expand it, like a negative version and a positive version, one where I'm trying to make a case for me going to hell, and then another one where I'm trying to make a case for me going to heaven. Just kind of to lay them both out, like a very positive and forgiving self-assessment or personal story. And then another one to kind of organize all the thoughts in my head of the things that I don't tell people, or that I tell people with shame, of, like, things that I am embarrassed by, or that, you know, make a case that I'm a bad person, and then make a case that I'm a good person.
What would that do for you to have those two paths, like, written out?
I think it would give me an easier choice when I realize it's more functional for me to think of myself as a good person right now, because it would provide me with the confidence that I need to, like, pursue a certain challenge. Then I can look over that, or I have those words better because I've written them down, more easily accessible to have that. It's kind of a modification of another Jordan Peterson self-authoring project thing, where he has 3 phases of it. One is you write about your current strengths and flaws. Another is your past. You tell your story. And then the future one is you imagine if your worst qualities, all your flaws took over, what's hell like for you? What is, like, in 10 years, how bad could your life be if you did everything wrong? And then if you did everything right, if you really treated yourself like someone that you were supposed to take care of, and you mostly embodied all of your strengths and your positive qualities that you detailed in the present phase, what would your heaven look like? What's your ideal like? And he says that there was a study of, like, college students, they had do that many, many more of them stayed in college in the group that they had write this future plan out than the group that didn't have this exercise.
Do you think it's because by visualizing something, it gives people an opportunity to kind of try it on? Or what do you attribute that success to?
I think just having made something concrete, some rubric, some reference point, some goal, on their own terms. Like, we get goals provided to us by other metrics, like, you know, here's a grade that you can get, or here's a show that you can put up here's a podcast rating system. You know, do you have 5 stars? How many subscribes do you have?
Yeah.
But to come up with your own metrics, and I guess it's really just about deciding values and then writing them down, and then you have become accountable to yourself in a way that I think a lot of people don't do. I haven't done in many ways.
Yeah, and I feel like so many people are dissatisfied, but they don't take the time to do that assessment. And that's where I start with a lot of people. It's like, okay, let's find out where you actually are. Like, have you sat down and thought about, like, why you think, you know, this or that is going on? And it's like, you know, that's when you realize, like, oh, I have no satisfying relationships in my life, or, like, some crazy thing that's, like, of course, if you think about it, like, yeah, that would lead to dissatisfaction. But people, we're not taught to, like, take the time and really get conscious about the choices that we're making. It's just like, do this, do that, do this, do that, because it's the prescribed path of here's what people do and here's how you get success, quote unquote.
I think some religions did that for people. Not all, and not all people like would go and buy into that, but I think that that's weekly set aside time to reflect on your values and hear stories that are meant to remind you of things that you knew, but that you forget easily because something more attractive popped up. And,
like, reconnecting you with, like, an outside source, again, quote unquote, but also your own inner guidance. Like, quieting down enough to be like, what do I actually want? What do I actually care about? In what steps do I want to take to advance that notion of myself? Yeah, that's a really good point.
Did you ever go to a Quaker meeting?
I don't think so. I mean, I grew up going to church.
Yeah. I went to one Quaker meeting, I think service in Pittsburgh in high school. My world history teacher took a group of us, and probably 40 people sit in a circle in silence for an hour and a half. And if someone feels compelled to say something, they stand up and speak for a minute or so. Most of it was silence. And sometimes someone would get up and say something that they were thinking about, sit back down. No one needs to react or respond to that. They typically didn't. I thought that was cool to just be in a place where it's socially reinforced to sit still and think. And you can share if you want to be heard. And occasionally you're reminded that there are other people there thinking too. Yeah.
This is not similar to that quality at all, but another, like, area of life that stands in for that kind of thing for some people is, like, AA or NA or you know, something like that, where it's a gathering and you're with sort of people that have something in common with you. It's about how do we all survive this daily struggle that in this case is alcoholism, but I think religion is, like, how do we all survive existence, you know, and, like, contemplating to what extent we matter.
Do we have to die? I think it's the big question.
Do we have to?
Religion's like, no, come here, baby. You don't gotta die. You be real good, and we'll let you get the milk forever.
Yeah, and then you can be with all the people that you love that have also died, but they haven't died either. They're just up there waiting for you.
They're young and hot again.
They're exactly as you remember them.
We control-Z'd all those amputations.
God's just up there with, like, his email on, like, a 1999, you know, Windows.
Yeah.
Just delete.
I don't want my penis to be any bigger. I'm good. It's the perfect size. He's dealing with spam and that.
Oh, I see. That's funny. Yeah, that's funny.
I didn't set that up well.
No, you didn't, but it was a funny joke. So I think that's okay. Okay,
good.
Yeah, we're all on board now. But yeah, so that place, AA, NA, those eaters, and not whatever, all those things, all those different things are an attempt to implement, like, structure and regularity and community into a very scary domain. I think, and I think that's why it works so well for people. It's also that, I mean, the religious element is a big part of it too, because the idea of giving yourself over to a higher power and trusting and all of that can be really appealing for people. I don't know how my personal view is on that, because I haven't had an addiction that I've had to overcome, where I've had to like really give in to something bigger than myself. And I'm only kind of dealing with what are the ways that I give in and connect with, I guess, what I'm calling the universe or my inner guidance sort of on my own. So I don't want to, put down people that feel that that's a really important element of a program like that, is the higher
social
power.
Oh.
No, the social thing is huge. I actually think that's part of what makes it so great. More, for me, I would think more so than the element of giving yourself over to a higher power, because it's like, wow, the universality of feeling like we're all struggling with this together, and there's this person who's been sober for a day, there's this person who's been sober for a year, there's this person who's been sober for 20 years, and not every day, but every week or whatever, they're coming and they're saying like, here's this condition that I have, which in my eyes is like one fragment of the human condition overall. You stand up and you're like, hi, I'm Morgan, I'm a human, I've been a human for however many years, and I'm still struggling with it. Every day it's a battle. I think of my depression that way, as just a thing to manage, not like a thing to just check enough boxes for it to be gone, because this is not going to happen. Yeah. Religion is so fucking fascinating.
I have a secular attempt at fulfilling those needs in the Everyman group that I'm a part of. Its values, I guess, are focusing on the bodily sensation of emotions and slowing down and giving words to describe how you're feeling in your body, and then using that as a guidance for how to act. There's no God talk or anything like that.
No God talking here.
No, there isn't. I sometimes wonder why it has to be a men's group. My theory is that people are less honest when they're around people that they see as mating potential.
Yeah.
But gay people can be in the group, and would they be less honest because there are guys around that they might be attracted to?
I guess I think it's like, like the safety of like a women's group or a men's group or any kind of group where it's like we all have one thing in common. I don't think it matters specifically if it's gender or sexual orientation or a certain type of psychological issue or whatever it is. I think it's like it kind of heightens that sense of having a collective experience, to have at least one thing in common, I would think.
One thing in common that other people don't have in common, because, any group of people, you're all people, and that there's so much that's shared as being a human being, right?
Yes. I think it heightens, it kind of is a fast track to like a certain level of intimacy, because you have something in common. Just being a man, of course, is not a very big thing to have in common, I would say. But it gives it something.
Yeah. I wonder how different our conversations would be if there were women there. Like, we talk about the same feelings that women have.
Yeah.
Maybe the values are different.
Maybe in the case of this group, where there's already sort of an amount of intimacy and coverage of all topics, and you get to that deeper emotional layer, maybe it's not that different. Maybe it kind of just bypasses the need for that commonality of we're having a men's experience.
Yeah.
I don't know. Not there. I'm a woman.
I think it's because the assumption or the assessment is that men are not in touch with their feelings enough. Women are, and men would struggle to do it even more in front of women.
Right.
But that they're willing to do it if it's, a safer space where there's men that they see are doing it like them.
Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't make them womanly, which can be bad in some men's minds. It doesn't make them feminine.
Right.
Or that femininity is okay.
Yeah.
We do stretches every week, a challenge for ourselves, and then we report back to the group on how we did with it. This week mine was to, whenever I feel like I'm going to just put on a podcast or scroll through Facebook, get on Reddit, something mindless, I would write down how I'm feeling at that moment. Like, what is uncomfortable, what.
Yeah.
And so I have a note in my phone going of all the times that I've felt like I want something different in my brain than what's in there.
Mm-hmm. What's broad strokes the conclusion that you're trying to draw?
Dreading doing something. It's a lot of like procrastinatory kind of things that I'm gonna have to do this thing, but I could escape that reality. I don't have to go tutor this kid right now if I like am just on Reddit scrolling through news, or maybe something amusing will pop up, little funnies. I can let out a tiny chuckle to myself. Right. And I feel like I've wasted hours. It's not total waste. I do get sometimes useful information.
Podcasts are not a waste of time.
No. You're in your car, you're in your kitchen right now. If you're just sitting in a chair staring at the wall listening to this.
If you're avoiding something, go do that thing. Turn us off.
Dude, what are you enjoying listening to this, honestly? Be real with yourself.
Yeah.
No, it's so comforting to me to hear familiar voices having a conversation. There's good feelings involved. People are laughing. People are stimulated. They're curious. Mostly Joe Rogan I'm talking about here.
I don't think he needs any more plugging.
He doesn't.
Everyone already knows.
Yeah, I get a huge comfort out of that. I'll be in my car with other people. I'll be like, I can't wait for these people to get out of my car so I can put Joe back.
Wow.
Joe, we can be
Is
together.
He your favorite friend?
As soon as these fuckers leave my car.
Wow, I don't feel that way at all.
Yeah. What's the thing that was there like a TV show or a book series that you've been most obsessed with? You're like stoked about the next one coming out, or is there
Game of
something
Thrones.
like that? Really?
Game of Thrones, yeah.
I've heard that it has a lot of philosophical ideas in it. And a lot of interesting concepts.
Oh, it's captivating.
Yet, for something like that, I don't hear it used as a reference that often when people are trying to explain an idea that, it's like when the king does this, and I really don't
You have no idea
often.
how to even make the...
Yeah, I don't.
When the king does the thing.
When the midget has sex with the prostitute.
Those are two things that happen. The king does things, and the midget has sex with the prostitute.
Yeah. I've seen the first couple episodes. But I don't hear people like using it often as a reference point. If it's that philosophical, really?
I do actually use it quite often.
As much as South Park?
As much as South Park.
Is it as useful as South Park in explaining ideas?
You know what's the most useful to me?
What?
Seinfeld, then South Park.
Yeah.
Well, I think what South Park helps me explain contemporary societal phenomena.
Okay.
Seinfeld helps me explain situations and coincidences and like little character flaws.
The minutia of social
human experience,
manners. Okay.
Yeah. Game of Thrones, I feel like, is very much an allegory about like good versus evil and who prevails, and questioning morality being this like black and white thing. It's very much about the gray area. And also very much about how characters develop, which I think character development is just like the thing about a show that gets me the most excited, which makes a lot of sense because character development is what gets me most excited about regular human life.
No, that's the point of TV, I think, is it's a great medium for characters because you have all that time to get to know them in different situations.
Yeah.
It's like dating a person. I think comedies work better in TV shows, character-driven comedy at least, because in a movie, the events have to be funny because you don't know the characters that well.
That is such a good fucking point.
Yeah, thanks.
I haven't had enough thoughts in my head related to this to really say anything like that. And I agree so wholeheartedly.
Sitcoms are so comforting. You know these characters. You've seen them do a bunch of things. You fall in love with them.
And then that's why it's more rewarding.
Like what? Do you?
I mean, do I fall in love with them?
With movie characters like that, yeah.
Yeah, not as much. Not as much. I don't, it's hard. But, I don't remember what I was going to say, but... I think that's why sometimes it's more appealing to choose to rewatch something even than to take a chance on a new thing.
Sure.
Because it's that familiarity and like this character is totally gonna do this. That's so him. That's compelling shit. Like familiarity, we fucking love. Our brains love familiarity and predictability. Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah.
Just that little bit of novelty like in a song, the chorus, you need that. If the whole song is just the chorus repeating, it's boring. That's like rewatching the same episode over and over again. But if you get the characters the same, there's your chorus characters. Notice there's a lot of overlap in the spelling of those words.
Yes,
and
a few letters.
The verses are the shut up. Then the verses of the song,
will not shut up. This
the
is my
novel
podcast.
material. It's mine too.
Yes.
Fuck it.
Yeah, I saw what you were saying. The thread is so. Here's a show that I want to talk about that I'm like so excited about. My friend Risa was like, you should watch this. And I did because I was just literally sitting on my couch when that recommendation came in, like thinking about what I wanted. It was the perfect moment. Pen 15 on Hulu.
Pen 15?
It is...
Looks like Sex Education on Netflix. Looks like they're similar.
I have no idea what that is. But it is a perfect... nostalgic portrait of our middle school experience.
We had different middle school experiences, I'm pretty sure.
Well, yes. However, your middle school is unrelatable to mine. Unrelatable. And we're friends. Yeah, I believe that.
I'd be a super contrarian.
But so,
go ahead.
The two protagonists are these women who, they're in their 30s or something. Like, they're older, but they're acting among 12-year-olds.
Oh, okay.
And it is hysterical. Like, it talks about, like, masturbation. It talks about AIM. Just all these little things that were, like, just the crux of, like, making out in closets. Just the crux of, like, the
clan.
The crux cran of...
Cru Crux cranberries. Put them in your yogurt. Contaminate your pure white yogurt with Cru Crux cranberries. They'll help you poop.
Getting the blackouts and snow. They'll help you poop. Yeah, okay. But making sure... I'm never sure if it's, like, just a bad joke or too racist.
It can be both.
Right, it can be both. Easily.
They're not mutually exclusive. Yeah, but sometimes it's just one.
Like, I was trying to think, like, get the brown out as the connection between the pooping and the racial exclusivity.
Oh, I get it.
Okay, so bad joke. Great.
Sounds like you're comparing black people to human excrement, though.
Right, that's the part that I'm concerned about the racism of, for sure.
You're going to jail.
Yeah, I think I'm going to jail.
Real quick. You gotta have you locked up.
Yeah.
So what'd you do? I was talking about poop, and then I noticed that poop is brown, and so is some people's skin.
We were already joking about Cru Crux cranberries.
Yeah, you had to be there. You really had to be there. They weren't there when they sentenced me.
Yeah. I want to abruptly reverse and just change gears completely.
You're gonna start over.
Yeah, we should probably start this podcast over from, like, episode 1.
Yeah.
Where we try to pretend that not everyone's a little bit racist.
No, I meant be a baby again and do the whole...
Oh my god,
eat the food, suck the mama titty, do the...
No. Nope. I am just the right amount of distance away from my mom's boobs right now.
I'd do it all again.
There's no amount of money on earth. No amount of anything on earth to get me to do it again.
I don't know if I want to be born in this time more than the last... You know, like, my new birthday is February of 2019. I don't think I want that. But if I could go be reborn in 1991 again and relive it all, I'd live it all again.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Because, I guess for me, it's like I've pretty much not enjoyed my life until now. So I'm like, no.
Yeah.
I've staked a lot of claim on this particular part of my life. Saturn return, baby! I just hit my head on the air conditioning unit again. Not to, like, a critically painful level, but I wish I'd learned that lesson already.
Yeah.
Fully. So I'm sure it'll happen the third time. Should we take some advice? We've been talking for a while.
Yes, but after I say something that...
Please, please.
I was real polite by not cutting you off when you were telling me about that.
You didn't have to be.
Well, there was that recommendation. I know, I wanted to hear about the show, though. Pen 15, you said you were on your couch when you got
it's
the
very
text.
funny.
Check this out. It's a messaging app.
Okay.
But you decide what location you want the person to be in when they will actually receive the message. So you can be like...
Doesn't exist?
I've never heard of it. This is just me... I'm coming up with this right now.
Oh, I mean, it's brilliant.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, like, I want them to get this when they're on the toilet. And then the next time they're on the toilet...
How would you know that, though?
How would you know? I guess it would require pretty close GPSing.
Foursquare. You would have to check into your own bathroom.
Okay, I think at the current iteration, it would be like in the car,
when they get home, text,
at work,
blah, blah, blah.
at home. Those are kind of like the big things. But it's location-dependent message delivery is the big idea.
And it's big, baby.
It's huge. It'll totally get abused, and it'll be just another thing that's tracking your every movement and then sold to advertisers and the government.
Absolutely. It already is, probably.
But people don't care as long as you can link it to a way for them to have sex. And if that becomes the new way that they have sex, they'll give up all their information because that's what we do anyway.
What do you mean if they have sex? What do you mean by if they have sex?
Like, if it becomes a tool, like having to get on Instagram. How many people have I asked out and they're like, yeah, here's my Instagram handle. And I'm like, I'm not on Instagram, but I have to get on Instagram if I want to go out with that person. So, if it gets enough traction or there's a dating component, it's a dating messenger app. I was looking at Grindr for the first time.
Oh, yeah.
Last night on some guy's phone, and he was like, this guy, he's like, it was less than a mile away, but it was all sorted by proximity. You just see how close is the person map. And that was scary to me.
Really?
Yeah, like, you could just walk outside. If I'm on this,
yeah,
I could walk outside and then, like, just look around for the people that are closest to me.
Yeah.
And then be like, oh, okay.
I think that's the appeal.
Yeah. I'm scared of the total loss of privacy. What if you just submitting to never having a thought that is only yours again? I feel like that's
a big
the
leap
logical
from Grindr.
It's coming.
Never having a private thought.
But how
Grindr
quickly,
to never having a private thought again.
How quickly are we getting there by putting so much of our minds into networked devices that are vulnerable?
Oh, I mean, I think we're careening down a slippery slope.
Yeah. What do you lose in not having privacy?
Independent thought? Question mark? I don't know. I mean, I think that, like, creativity requires, like, time and space and quiet in order to, like, sort of, like when you are in the shower, when you're doing something where, like, your brain is sort of in a different gear, you're not really doing anything, these ideas, like, pop into your head and stuff. And when you take away the container of that blank space, if we're always being bombarded by some kind of message, there's no space to have your own original ideas and allow them to, like, to play with them. There's some, God, I wish I knew more about this, but it was like a TED Talk or some nugget of information that was fed into my ears, was about what we lose when we prevent people from ever being bored.
Yeah.
And it's that same idea of, like, we need to be bored in order to have an idea of, like, well, what should we do? How should we spend our time? What creative thing can we think about or talk about or whatever? Versus, like, if we're always having messaging coming the one way at us, it kind of, I mean, it's a little bit of a, like, technophobic kind of viewpoint. But
I think there's a lot of valid parts of technophobia.
Absolutely.
Every great societal change has costs, and
yeah,
I think it's the job of the population to try and figure out, like, okay, so we got cars now.
Yeah.
How do we not kill ourselves constantly? Okay, we can put these belts in. We put these inflatable bags in them. We can make sure that people don't drive too fast, or they're going to have to pay money.
Yeah, make it safe enough to make the risk, like, acceptable. Yeah.
And I think that shit is not happening online. With the current, like, how well does Congress understand what's happening on media networks and social media?
Have you seen Congress?
Not at all. No fucking idea. Like, they got cars, I think. They understood that.
Probably took a while, though, because cars were, started to be a thing.
Yeah.
Pretty long time ago, and I feel like a lot of safety regulations are, like, just now pretty much where they should be.
With cars?
Yeah, I mean, I'm making that up. I don't really know the ins and outs. Some automobile safety expert can write in to us about how there are still many, many needs to be covered.
Yeah.
But I think it's good enough We still lose people, but that's the risk of driving a high-speed vehicle, personally. I don't know what kind of broad changes you're looking for with the internet.
It would
distribution of child porn, and that could be an area of improvement. Yeah.
I don't think that affects most people directly. I mean, I'm sure in some way it's attacks on society, but I think giving people more tools to understand how the content that is reaching them is chosen and what data they're giving away, like what kind of profile has been built on them,
right?
And who has access to that. I don't know who knows what about me.
Yeah.
And what companies know what about me.
Oh my God. Using that. There's a great thing where you can like go into Facebook and find what demographics you've been put into, and it is hysterical. Like we were, back when I was working in independent film, we were distributing a film called Damnation, and it's about the environmental impact of dams on the Pacific Northwest. And so because I had this thing called Damnation that I liked, it put me in all these like pagan categories. Like, she's an anarchist, she's like all about the world going to hell and the devil, and I was like, whoa. Not quite, but okay.
I mean, it's not that far off.
Right.
You probably
it's hilarious.
Like a little pentagram here and there with some candles, don't you?
Well, I'm more of the kind of like woo-woo witchy than like the devil, I would say. I'm like a devil worshiper.
It's kind of cool though, right?
I mean, I do love chaos and like systems collapsing.
Have you ever looked into Satanism? Events. What they're about? It's not like all that fucked up.
I'm sure.
It's kind of like you should be an asshole to protect what you love. Like, you know,
I don't know
tell
if I
people
believe in that.
It's like if someone wrongs you, don't be just averse to the conflict, because the conflict is short lived, and like expressing your truth is more important. Well, so like living truly, there's like a positive aspect to Satanism as I heard it.
Sure.
Of just like standing up for what you believe in.
All cults start with one great idea.
Yeah.
And then just some fucker like ruins it. No, I'm just kidding. But I mean, it's people who try to build a world around their ideal, and some of them are just happen to be like psychotic, and unfortunately charming, and then it brings great destruction. But yeah,
let's do the advice.
We were really like,
I had to get that thing out about the location-based message delivery.
Yeah, I think there is a thing about like, remind me this when I get to this place. Yeah,
you can do that with your voice assistant.
But there's no message-based. Okay.
Not that I know of.
Okay.
Or it's not being widely used yet.
Great.
I think it would be cool in augmented reality to like be able to hide things in a person's house that then they hold their phone over, like, you know, your air conditioning unit, and
like Pokemon Go.
Can you hide Pokemon in people's houses that way?
No, but I mean, like, is that that's
augmented reality?
About? Like,
where you look through the phone camera and it'll show you something on a specific spot if you put the phone over that.
Right.
So this would be like, I could hide a message for you in your freezer.
Oh, that's cute and terrifying.
Yeah, and then you go on a little scavenger hunt in your place, and there's
that's a great
digital artifacts from your friends. All right, so let's move on to the advice. You ready for this?
So ready.
We got a question here. Should I have bare feet around people more to make me more comfortable with it? Asked by Xhexvfw Xhexvfw.
I love this question.
I am uncomfortable having bare feet around others, especially when they are wearing socks. My therapist has advised me about exposure therapy and thinks that it might be a good idea for me to have bare feet around others, especially around my girlfriend when we visit each other, even when she is wearing socks. I am just wondering, is this a good idea?
As I stated when I thought the question was over, I love this question.
I think that it's helpful to know one piece of follow-up that comes from the top-ranked follow-up question. What about it bothers you?
Right, yes.
Xhexvfw says, feeling undressed, although I know that it is irrational and totally normal. There's nothing wrong with my feet.
Yeah.
Just a weird, slightly anxious feeling.
That's really important to know. I'm glad you read that, because that was going to be definitely thing that I asked next, which is like, okay, so what are your
Nothing
fears?
wrong with the feet. They weren't burned. There's no abnormal number of toes.
No aggressive smells.
No fungus. When other people are wearing socks, it's especially bad.
That part's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, is it because they're... Like, I wonder how this person feels about other people's feet being exposed. Is feet exposure the issue, or is personal exposure of my feet the issue?
Seems like it's okay.
Okay. Yeah, so I think exposure therapy can be great as long as you kind of set up the boundaries around it to be safe and comfortable enough, and you dose the fear out in sort of like incrementally increasing doses. Mm-hmm. I think this is a great and potentially safe way to explore what are the edges and the limits of your anxiety, and how does it come up and why, and what about it is hard to sit with. And I come from a family where, especially my dad's side, the Beard side, barefoot is like our lifestyle. And I love being barefoot, and it's kind of my favorite way to be. Sometimes I especially in the summer, want to leave the house wearing no shoes because I'm just like, this is how I want to be in the world. And so I am both sad and excited for you to come into that element of life.
Feet are really wonderful. You can think of them like hands on your lower half.
Right.
I'd recommend watching some type of a primate navigate the world with its feet.
Yeah.
Because they use their feet in ways that'll make you really feel like you're neglecting yours. And then you'll start, say you take off your shirt and throw it on the ground, you'll start picking it up with your toes and launching it into the laundry basket. Mm-hmm. Taking a paper towel and cleaning up a spill without bending over because you've got it gripped by your toes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd like to plug a product.
Please.
Vibram 5 Fingers. These are toe shoes that many people tease the look of.
Yeah, including me.
Because they're toe socks that have like a rubber on the outside of them and fully protect your foot. But they complement your natural way of interacting with the world, which is to have all of your toes available to balance and grip things and move independently. Which, once you start doing that, you realize, like, oh man, I could feel surfaces that I'm walking on. I could feel all of the differences in texture, and shoes are stopping me from doing that.
It's a different surface through which to experience and orient yourself to the world. Yeah. Having your feet on the ground and feeling like the curvature of different surfaces, the softness, the hardness. And for anxiety especially, which, can be a very physical thing, but often is sort of pulls us into our heads and, makes us sort of very mentally focused and keeps our center very high in our bodies, right in our head. And so one of the practices that can be beneficial or part of a kind of plan of addressing your anxiety is to get more grounded. And so feeling your feet on the ground and that sensory tactile experience has the ability to pull that center down a little further in your body because you are feeling the surface underneath you. And so you can feel more secure and grounded. And those are sort of the antithesis to the anxious, frenzied mental experience. Yeah.
The way you stand and come in contact with the thing that's below you is huge. It's gigantic. I've heard the advice for improvisers who are getting in a funk. If you don't feel like you have good ideas when you're stepping out on stage, or you just can't support other people as scene partners, buy a new pair of shoes, and then you just buy those new pair of shoes, and then also wear them while you're improvising. Put them on, and then you'll take a new stance, and that dictates everything else about your body language. Adjusts, and you are giving yourself permission to take a new approach, be a new character, because who would stand like this with these now all of a sudden sturdy shoes or all these light shoes? I can move a lot quicker. Just changing up something in your physiology breaks you out of that funk is the idea.
So that's fantastic advice. Again, the gendering of the person potentially comes into play with what I'm about to say.
Oh, this is a guy, right?
Well,
he says, okay.
They say they have a girlfriend.
So
yes, I also assumed
chances
that it
are
was
it's
a guy.
There are more boys who have girlfriends
and posters on Reddit
and girls
in general, I would say. But yeah, so if this were a girl, for example, I would say, why don't you go get your toes painted in a way that you think is really beautiful in a color that you like, so that when you take your shoes off, you see it and you're rewarded by that, and you it kind of is just this little extra thing that you can be reminded of that's nice when you take your shoes off as an added reward. So this could potentially be, you could draw a little design on your foot, almost like a temporary tattoo that like, oh, when you take your shoes off, you see this little thing. We have a friend who, when they are kind of feeling like insecure about something specific, they draw a little happy guy on their hand, and that they look at it and that reminds them that, hey, this is fun, this is cool, we're okay. And so you could kind of do something like that with your foot. Drawing a little symbol that reminds you, like, hey, I can do this. Taking off your shoes, like, and your socks is an important step towards your personal growth. And so maybe you do a little smiley face that kind of reinforces that you're doing this thing for your future self, for your happiness, to explore your anxieties and to prove to yourself, hey, life can be okay when my shoes are off.
On the top of your foot, you could draw a Bart Simpson face and then have each of the toes be his hair.
Fantastic.
Both of your feet, you do like this.
Yes.
And so that they're facing each other, and you bring your feet together and you make kissing noises.
Absolutely.
It's Bart practicing kissing in the mirror.
Yeah.
He's going to be a bad kisser if I don't take my socks off and practice bringing my feet together so that Bart can kiss himself. What's going to happen? Bart doesn't really have a crush, does he? He's maybe had a fling or two. Yeah.
You could do Milhouse and Lisa.
And Lisa. Neither of their hairs really look like toes, though.
That's
so
correct.
Now we're just operating the Simpsons world for no real reason.
I forgot about that. Okay.
If you're going to do that, pick whatever fictional universe you're most familiar with and whatever.
Create your own.
Yeah, you could.
Mr. and Mrs. Foot.
That could be threatening.
Whatever.
It's somebody who doesn't like taking their socks off. I don't know.
The point is, lean into something playful and joyful that's positive that happens when you take your shoes off. Think about positive reinforcement. Like maybe it's something that doesn't have to do with your feet, but when you take your shoes off, there's some other kind of reward that your brain then links it to. Like you treat yourself in some other little way, or if your girlfriend could be a part of this process, there could be like a special kind of kiss or something like that signifies like, I'm with you in this process, I support what you're doing, and I'm here to help and be a support for you.
I want to sell you on your feet being unclothed as a avenue to pleasure.
Off, actually.
Mine are off right now.
We should look at our own feet right now.
Sure.
Let's take the opportunity to do that. Last episode, I criticized Rob for like touching his feet or something. He did something.
I smelled my sock.
Smelled his sock.
Yeah.
And now I feel like maybe that was like foot shaming. How's it smell today,
I like
Rob?
it. Do you want to?
Do I want to smell your foot or my own? Okay, I'll smell yours. Okay, smells like a foot.
Yeah. But not
mine actually does not smell like a foot. I don't know why. I think it's because I showered and then put socks on immediately last night.
Yeah, there's like a soapy floral scent to that, whereas mine has some of that.
You know it's a foot.
It's a little bit of funk. It's not that corn
no, it's
smell
not bad.
that aerates a plane whenever you take your shoes off, but...
I've also been trying to get less comfortable, or more comfortable with, rather. I'm trying to really scare the crap out of myself. I'm trying to get more comfortable with less painting my toenails. I used to always paint my toenails, and I felt like, as a woman, like, feet are gross when your toenails aren't painted, or there's something missing, or there's something not good enough, or polished enough, or whatever. I've been rocking the natural nails look for a few weeks now, and I'm pretty happy with it. Biggest perk, low maintenance.
Yeah.
I love a good manicure, especially gel. I splurge. It's a whole thing. But not having to do that and feeling okay about the way that you are is, you know, it's my own version of that exposure therapy. Will I keep it up in the summer when my toes are out all the time?
Probably
Who
not.
knows?
Doesn't sound like it.
Probably not. Maybe more frequently. So maybe that's my work.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you got to do these little things, whatever they are, that like there's like an engine revving or something like underneath us.
Yeah,
there's a garage next to us.
A motorcycle? Some kind of hot
yeah,
rod?
potentially.
Jeez.
So if you're hearing that, that's what's going on. It's someone trying to be impressive.
Succeeding.
We are thoroughly impressed. You gotta
podcast debut right now.
free engine revving.
Hey guys, vroom, 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 vroom.
Fuck you and your feet talk. You gotta find the little tolerable ways to push the boundaries of the things that make you uncomfortable in order to grow. Mm-hmm. And it seems like you've done some self-exploration and you are in therapy, which is amazing. Kudos. I love that journey. For you and for me and for everyone else. And you've identified something that pushes your boundaries. And it may seem small or potentially silly to someone who isn't you. But I think we can all recognize these little things in ourselves, these little ways that we can push the envelope to be better people. And sometimes they come up in relationship, or when we're like not alone. So just keep putting yourself out there. Keep enlisting people that are close to you to help you meet these goals and ask them to support you because they want to. Everybody loves supporting other people for the most part. And so the more specific you can get about, hey, like, can you stop okay, so Rob's foot is like a foot above my foot and he's like picking small fuzzes off of it and those fuzzes are like landing on my foot.
Making it rain.
I mean, granted, the fuzzes are like, in all likelihood, oh shit, I'm just getting coffee everywhere. The fuzzes are in all likelihood coming from the rug, my own rug. I'm just spilling coffee all over myself without noticing. But
it doesn't look like you had your period.
Thanks. Phew. I was super worried about several coffee splotches not anywhere near my vagina looking like I was on my period. Also, when I'm on my period, I would prefer for it not to look like I'm on my period. Well, I don't know what I was saying, but ask for support.
I want to sell you on this path that you're going on a little bit even more, because your feet are a doorway to pleasures untold.
Wow.
The nerve endings from your feet, a lot of people don't know this, but they wind up on the same, right next to the part of your brain where the genital nerve endings go. And so there's a lot of cross-wiring that happens there where stimulation from your feet can feel very intense. That's why if people are tickling you, they'll often out of convenience go for the armpit. But if they really want to do it, they'll get to the feet, unless you build up calluses to protect yourself from that type of tickling. But that's a little bit paranoid.
You sit at home just like sanding your feet to like
training.
Yeah.
For the tickle wars.
Also, the coffee, speaking of anxieties, the small blotches of coffee that are currently being absorbed into my clothing are giving me anxiety. So you keep talking. I'm going to go get a wet paper towel.
Go deal with that. I have plenty to say on this.
Perfect. I'll leave you to it.
Okay. Here's what I recommend you try. You get one of those spiky balls that's made out of a hard plastic and run that under your feet. I have a red one. Kind of looks like the spikes are off of Bowser's back, not too sharp, but still you know that it's a spike in all directions. And you roll that around in your foot, starting with a little pressure, and then eventually you're putting all of your weight on it. Those points on the bottom of your foot that you find, I guess they're pressure points, they can feel so good to just have them stimulated by a ball like that. And then I recommend this video on YouTube called Self-Massage for the Hands and Foot. You get some coconut oil. You start by loosening up your hands because you're going to need your fingers to be limber for you to get into your feet. And then after 10 minutes of that, you do 10 minutes of foot massage. Wow. It's such a way of taking care of yourself and feeling so much looser. There's so much tightness that comes from the foot, wearing the wrong type of shoe, just walking on it all the time. We punish our feet. Mm-hmm. So you got to get them naked to give them the care that they need. And a naked foot is kind of an invitation to great pleasure. So if you start associating it with that, by running it on these balls, by giving it the hand massage that you can administer yourself, guided by this woman on self-massage for the hands and feet, go to YouTube, type that in. It's important to use coconut oil, too. Or some type of oil.
Rob is the biggest proponent of coconut oil I've ever met.
When you give a massage and you have the ability to slide, and that just, you get so much deeper. It's like removing the person's skin and then giving them a massage. I want to add, for someone who is less comfortable with their feet and maybe wants sort of an entry-level version of the kind of self-care that Rob is talking about, what?
I would say potentially start with soaking your feet in warm water, like at the end of the day. Because it's something where you don't have to be like touching them as much. If that's something that bothers you, I don't know. But that's a way to, it kind of loosens the dead skin. It feels good. It warms them up. And, you still have to have bare feet to do it. So that's, that might be sort of the intro to what Rob's talking about, which honestly makes me a little uncomfortable. I don't know why. Like, thinking about me, like, deeply massaging my own feet, it's just there's just a tiny layer of, that I have to get past in order to do that. Not that I wouldn't do it, but so noticing that response in myself prompts me to offer a more entry-level solution for someone who may have more foot challenges than Rob, which is most people probably have more issues with their feet than Rob. Pedophobia. Sure. Exactly.
You want to change your pedophobia into pedophilia.
So there must be another word then. So obviously, I mean, in that sense, like, aren't we all pedophobes? We should be.
No. Afraid of children?
No. Afraid of pedophiles. I was
pedophilophobic, sure.
Pedophile.
Most people are pedophilophobic.
Right. That's what I meant. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Although there are arguments that makes the problem worse. That pedorrests are different from pedophiles.
Pedorrests? What do you mean?
I think a pedorrest, I should look this up, but I believe a pedorrest is someone that has acted on their
pedophilia. So is there then a slight like disambiguation that needs to happen between a pedophile and a...
That, like, people can be attracted to whatever they want. It's kind of like no feeling is wrong.
You can be a pedophile and not have acted on it.
And that might not be your fault. That's just something that's arisen in you, and people should be forgiving of that. It's pedorrest. It's if you act on it with a child, that's the part that we should be condemning.
Right.
But if people are never even allowed to talk about, okay, I have this issue.
Yeah.
If they're afraid that their therapist is going to report them as a danger, I believe the laws in the U.S. are that, like, you're not protected for admitting feelings of pedophilia, but, like, in Germany they've changed that.
Well, and, I mean, pedophilia, any kind of, like, sexual compulsion towards anything kind of comes out of often, like, an association of that thing with the sexual act. Yeah. And so if you're someone who has a sexual response when children are around, that's probably because something happened to you in a sexual way when you were a child. Right. So that's definitely not something that we should inherently be attributing fault to that person for. And I always think creating an open dialogue is better than just being like, no, we can't talk about it because it's something that scares us or repulses us or, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe start 1 foot at a time. Take a sock off your left foot. See how that feels, and then if it starts,
you could do it slowly.
Yeah.
Reveal the ankle first, then slide it over the heel. Notice what your heel looks like. Inch it down the arch of your foot. Notice how the arch feels. Then the ball. Like, if it's too much, you just rip the sock right off.
Yeah. Maybe do some mushrooms and look at your foot. I think you could accept it in that way. It could help you see, like, oh, this is strange. So are my hands. So is the whole body, but this part no more than others. And what a great what a great purpose it serves me.
I had a really early in my days of tripping, I created a moment for myself where I had several files pulled down off my computer of pictures I really hated of myself from Facebook. Just pictures where I didn't like the way my face was captured, and I did paintings of them. I think the paintings I had done soberly, but it was just it was an attempt to better understand and visualize, like, and come to terms with what are the aspects of this that I don't like. And then I remember taking them out accidentally. I think I was going to draw something else on this big notepad, and I was tripping, and I looked at the images that I'd created of myself that I had hated so much. And I just remember, like, because there's that added element of colors vibrating and things sort of pulsing and moving, this rendering of my face had a life to it. And I was, like, looking into my own eyes in this piece of art and just going, wow, like, this is a representation of this living, breathing person that I am, and I've decided that I hate it. And, like, wow, isn't that tragic? And, like, what if I could develop more of a sense of kindness and empathy and love towards this, this slice of who I am that I perceive as a flaw. And so I feel like, for that reason, potentially that could be a great idea. If you're not someone who is generally comfortable with that sort of drug experience, I wouldn't start there again.
No.
But if you are if you're listening to this and
where would you start?
You have the hot soak. I would start with removing the sock slowly, hot soak. Let something else do the work. Let just the temperature naturally warm the area before you're more active with it. But yeah, so I do think that, taking that kind of a drug or really just getting yourself into a headspace that's different, it opens you up to a potentially very poignant and meaningful experience.
Yeah.
And you may change how you feel about your feet in a way that's a little bit expedited. If you choose to do something that's a little harder, in terms of in the exposure therapy world, that might be the kind of experience where you would have your girlfriend there or something. Mm-hmm. Again, it's about creating that safe enough container to let the fears out a little so that you can look at them and understand them a little better. Turning the light on a little in the dark room. Start
by practicing alone and just pretending that there's a person there.
Sure.
And then do it in front of a dog. The dog might even lick your feet. If that's too much for you, tell the dog to stop. But the dog probably doesn't judge your feet the way that you do. Dog's just looking for any salty, exposed piece of skin.
Disgusting.
What?
That's disgusting.
I used to come back from runs, and I'd have these foster dogs that I'd only known for a day or two. But I'd come back from a run.
No, the dog part grosses me out. Being licked by a dog grosses me out.
Yeah, well, wait until you hear this.
Oh,
I'm shirtless. I lay down on the ground after a hard run, covered in sweat. I'm a very sweaty person. Oh, don't worry, we're still going. They're getting this.
I know, I'm just checking.
She doesn't trust my microphone running skills. Because, I've had the sound
system. There have been fuck-ups.
Twice. Two things can go wrong. The battery can die. You can run out of storage space. Both of those have happened. So I'd get back from a run. Mm-hmm. I'd be covered in salt, shirtless. I'd lay down on the ground. Dog would just go to town for probably 20 minutes. Real rough tongue like sandpaper. Just rubbing all over my skin. And the dog's getting the salt that it wants because I'm not giving him a ton of treats. I'm trying to treat it. You eat once a day.
You lick my salty body. Yeah. You act like it's the best treat you've ever had.
Mm-hmm. And then we're both excited when I put on my running shoes and get my music ready, get my little iPod shuffle loaded up. The dog sees that and thinks, here comes a treat in about an hour from now. I filmed the dogs doing this sometimes, and I'll watch a dog lick all the salt off of my body, and I'll just remember, like, wow, that guy really accepted me. That dog did not think it was gross that I was so sweaty.
There is a very small, almost imperceptible connection between this and the pedophile conversation.
Name it. Better be real small. Exploitation?
I don't know. The pornographic element?
Nothing scarred these dogs. The dogs were
I don't know.
Stoked on
Look,
this.
I don't know.
Dogs would pay, if dogs had money, they would pay good amounts of it to do this to me. Not just dogs.
Oh.
Several members of our own species paid to lick salt off my body. I can say with some confidence.
No, you're right. But yeah, the dog slobber just grosses me out to no end. You cannot get me further away from dog slobber.
It's cleaner than a human's secretions, says everyone.
Well, I don't prefer the smell. I don't prefer the fact that I can't control where it's going to go. The excitement level of the dog is very unpredictable and scary to me. But so similar to this, issue that I wish there was some short name we had given this person so that we could address them directly. But their username is like Xhexvfw 85X's.
Yeah.
I have a fear of dogs. Apparently, like, a big one knocked me over when I was little. Like, my dad let me get too close to it on the beach or something. I don't know. That's the feeder story that I've been told. And so, yeah, strange dogs, especially big ones, especially rambunctious ones whose behavior I can't control, is unpredictable to me. Very scary. I just had, like, a nightmare. Not a nightmare. It wasn't a full nightmare, but this particular slice of it was a nightmare, where I was, like, being sort of attacked by a dog. Regardless of the dog's intentions, like, I made them nefarious.
What do you think the dog's justified intent could have been? Just as a little exercise,
wanting
trying to empathize.
Know or understand or get close to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, that scares the shit out of me. It's yeah. So I'm able to be in the same room as dogs, and once I get familiar with a dog and kind of creating a container again that's safe enough, like a friend whose dog I trust and I trust the friend, and yada yada. Or maybe the dog is kind of like to some extent restrained or whatever, that I can approach it and dole out my dose of conquering this fear. I mean, underlying the fear is a general sort of indifference at best to dogs, so it's like not my incentive to do it is pretty low. But a lot of people have dogs, and dogs are important to a lot of people that are important to me.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to find a way to love them, despite the fact that I don't feel the way about them that most people do.
It's kind of like a dietary restriction. It's like, oh yeah, I can't do dogs. Okay, well, we can only get this close with some people.
Sure, yeah, yeah. But just drawing a parallel between, that is a way of exposure therapy that I kind of do with myself, and I wouldn't put myself in a situation with a dog where I know that the safety isn't going to be high enough for me to feel comfortable engaging with it.
Yeah. So I think pick a dog that you trust when you try this foot-licking exercise.
So back to the foot.
We've been talking about dogs for like 15 minutes. The question was not about dogs. Some people call their feet dogs. Oh, my dogs are barking.
That is so true.
What do you think that's about? My dogs are barking.
It's this thing that's your pet, and you recognize a need to take care of it once it's in pain and once it's kind of like giving you an ow response. That's my...
If you want to pick up girls, but you don't have a dog, get a leash, tie it around your ankle, get 2 leashes, put the collars around your ankles, and then when people ask you on the street, people ask you on the street, what the fuck are you doing? Be like, oh, I'm taking my feet for a walk.
Walking the dogs. That's hilarious.
Get little dog slippers.
Collars. Oh, okay.
Collars around the socks.
With little tags.
Is a gift.
Lefty and righty.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Louie and Roger.
Sure.
That's what we used to call them. This was our football code. The linebackers would be like, Louie, Louie, Louie. And no one would know that we were referencing the left side. No, I'm sure they did.
Because they were like, Lionel, Richie. They were doing the exact same thing.
I wish I knew a song of his that I could,
Hello.
That's Adele.
Is it me you're looking for? No, that's Lionel Richie.
Okay.
Suck it.
The way you said, I won't. The way you said hello was most instantly recognizable to me as Adele, but I'm a child of this generation.
Adele was recognizing Lionel Richie's song when she made hers.
Okay, well, we're from different generations here. We're different ages. And
I'm about 6 months older than Rob.
Exactly, and those 6 months were Lionel's time to shine.
Yes, late 1990 was exactly when he was doing his best. I actually don't know. That might be true, but I don't think so. I think he was earlier. But anyway, yes, I think your therapist is right. I think that exposure therapy, to the extent that you're comfortable with, being very careful of monitoring your response to different trials that you do, and making sure you actually do increase the difficulty of the exposure, or making it longer, or making it slightly more intense, or involving someone else, whatever it is, so that you continue to grow in that direction. And kudos for having feet that aren't that you're not ashamed of, and that's not part of it. But for some people, if that is part of it, that's a whole different set of considerations that you have to make. Like maybe you would feel more comfortable doing the barefoot experiment
if you
washed them first.
You shaved your feet and oiled them up.
Sure. If that's what you need, go for it.
Yeah, I don't know. Make them look more like the feet that you had when you were fresh out the womb.
We're really just circling on this pedophilia.
What do you mean? What's pedophilic about that?
Well, it's like this nostalgia for a pre-sexual time, a pre-growth time. I think that's some of what potentially pedophilia is born out of.
Yeah.
Desiring a body that doesn't have the markers of certain growth or sexuality.
Missing being a kid is different from being turned on by kids.
Yes.
I don't think this guy is going to get turned on by seeing his foot glistening and hairless like it was.
I mean, you are talking about creating a pleasurable, a pleasurable association in a way that I think isn't. It's at least erotic.
Okay, but watching cartoons and eating cereal like you did when you were a kid on Saturday mornings.
Right, but oiling up your feet.
Give you a boner. If you get a boner from this, you can. Sometimes the wires get crossed along the way to those nerve endings in the brain locations. Yeah. All right, let's wrap this up. This was good. You're welcome.
But yeah, just and hey, do some things, try some things. Let us know how it went. Give us the opportunity to give you more advice at different segments of your experience. And the thing I wanted to say before is what if you worked up to taking your shoes off in the room with your therapist? That could be a really great exercise. That's the perfect container for it if you're open. And if your therapist is open, I don't see why they wouldn't be if they're encouraging you to be barefoot more.
Getting the therapist to wear just their socks might be a challenge. But if you give them advance notice to make sure that there's no holes in the socks that day, they might be willing to do it.
Oh, getting the therapist to take their shoes off?
Because it's people being in the room with their socks on that makes it particularly difficult. Remember that?
I sort of had lost sight of that. But yeah, okay.
That's a big clue here.
Okay, so playing with the different gradients of clothedness for the feet and with another person. But yeah, I mean, I think it sounds like your therapist is giving you good advice. So, come to other people for advice, crowdsource. But, it sounds like you have a good support system.
Yeah. I want to thank you for letting us walk a mile in your shoes. All right, guys. That's the end of free advice. We'll be back next week with more free advice. Yeah, we love you. We hope you love us, too, in a not pedophilic way. Not that we're children. No, but we're in our late 20s. Show us your love in an appropriate adult way by rating, reviewing, subscribing, all the things we're supposed to recommend at the end of this podcast. Tell your friends. And if you have advice or a call for advice that you want to hear us talk about, you can email freeadvicepodcast@gmail.com. We are open to at least reading your email. No promises that your question will make it on the air. Very dependent on what the question is. I try to respond to everybody at least with a thumbs up emoji or something, just to let them know that we got it. Yeah, and just to follow the Reddit format, give us a little username that you want us to use. Something that isn't your real name. It can be a play on Sleepless in Seattle. Right. Xhexvfw, whatever it is.
And if it is, for some reason, extremely inappropriate, we may censor it. But we may choose our own variation. But just that's something to know. But yeah, you guys keep doing what you're doing. Keep trying to face your fears in the ways that you can every day and grow and expand. We promise we'll do the same. We'll keep giving you advice based on our best practices. You keep being your best selves. We'll just hold it down once a week. You can spend an hour with us.
And the best part, all the advice, 100% free.
Costs you nothing.
Yeah. All right.
Time.
Sleep tight, guys.